Hello there, and welcome back to a new episode of We Have Been Watching podcast, where we are doing our read-along Star Wars, and this week it is The Force Awakens. I am the Kylo Ren to Rob's Kylo Stimpy. Hello Rob, how are you?
I'm good, thank you very much.
Does anyone know who Ren and Stimpy are from although most of our listeners are our age group, so that's probably yes.
Oh yeah, 50-year-old males like us, yes.
I used to love Ren and Stimpy.
On the electric fence.
Yeah, I used to love Ren and Stimpy. That was really cool stuff.
People that it's not like what's it called, Rick and Morty or anything like that, is it? But you know, the idea of having a sort of an animation that appeals to student humour.
Yeah, gross out kind of. And one thing I used to
Beavis and
remember.
Butthead's coming back, isn't it?
Yeah, I was never a massive fan of that. It was okay. I'd watch it now and again. You'd see the Red Hot Chili Peppers, wouldn't you? It's that thing of an bygone MTV era, isn't it? Anyway, speaking of
this
a bygone
episode
era,
is sponsored by Ren and Stimpy.
by Mike Judge. So, Rob, Force Awakens. I was feeling slightly guilty or a bit disheartened from slagging off Return of the Jedi last week.
It's fine. It's earned enough money.
It has.
It's fine.
I'm sure George Lucas is crying all the way to the bank. So I thought, right,
Keeping him in check shirts.
and beard oil. Force Awakens, I'm going to give this a go. Now, again, to anyone who listens to us, we say this all the time, but you can tell via the notes you're writing, the vibe we get. We mentioned before in Empire, it's, I like this, I like that, I like that. Some of the lesser liked ones, it was like, that's a bit crap, this is a bit crap, that's a bit crap. So, for me, they were all positive ones. So Rob, let's set a bit of history, shall we?
Excuse me, feeling in my throat. I suppose the context of this is, the first time we saw it, it'd been like years since we'd had another Star Wars film, because you had to wait years for the prequels, and you thought that's it done, and then you're waiting years for these new sequels. So there's that anticipation of thinking, is this going to be better than the prequels? They're going to mess this up. So when it was good, like sort of overjoyed that, wow, they've not messed it up. They've made a new Star Wars film that's good. Now we're watching a Star Wars film every single week.
Yeah.
You haven't got that build up, have you? You're just judging it a little bit harshly on its own merit. So I found, we'll get into it, but some of the bits which are there as like little kicks because it's nostalgia, like look, it's the Millennium Falcon again. But it's like, I saw it last week.
Yeah, and
when I watched Return of the Jedi.
I think I've mentioned this before, but we went to watch this at the cinema as a family film on Christmas Eve, and I think I made it as far as that intro to the Falcon, and then I started crying, and I was just crying. Oh, it's the Falcon. Oh, it's Han and Chewie. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. Oh, it's the other. And I was just
like one of those shows when they're reunited with long lost brothers or something like that. It's you again.
And fathers and sons and being proud of your children. All of that schmaltz gets me every time. So, first things first on this, for me, I noticed how good it looked. Now, on Disney Plus, I'm always going into settings to say, is this in proper 4K? Is this in proper HD? And it keeps saying on the app, it automatically shows you the best quality that it can be. I thought it looked a great transfer, and I think you can tell, can't you? Proper digital.
Yes. Well, to be honest, I think we were watching a bit of the old Aladdin cartoon.
Yeah.
And I thought a similar thing with that as well. There's something about I guess it's the highest quality transfer they're sticking on Disney Plus or something.
Exactly.
Because the colours are flat, they've got no grain in them whatsoever. The blacks are solid black, aren't they? Just talking about film grains like we're talking about or something.
Yeah. So, straight off on this, I don't know about you. Now, again, I'm possibly getting a little bit of intertwined mingling going on here. Oscar Isaac is brilliant, isn't he? Straight away, we're off for that.
The story goes he's better than they was expecting because he was meant to have stayed dead.
Okay.
The TIE fighter crashed.
Yeah.
And he was just going to be like a bit of a... Because he wasn't like a big star or anything, was he? But he'd done stuff. He was a familiar face.
Yeah.
So it was just the idea of bringing him in, just to introduce you into the start of the film, to introduce the link to Finn. But Abrams apparently just thought he's so good, the audience won't be happy about this. I'm not happy about it, so we're keeping him on. So he comes back to joining the fight at the end, and obviously, followed on from that.
So did you notice right at the start? There's another shadow, isn't there? I wished I'd been paying more attention to this in all of our watchings, but I think we noticed it in Rogue One, didn't we? About that sort of shadow going over a planet or going over a Star Destroyer.
The opening crawl.
So we've got sort of quite a lot of notes on here. I thought, fabulous start. You drop like Max von Sydow in there, don't you? As a good. I mean,
it's a bit underused. Well, there's a lot underused because he hardly gets much to do. But in terms of an introduction to Poe and Kylo Ren, it's good, and even introducing sort of Finn at that point, isn't it? Because Finn's the trooper that gets the blood marks on his face, on his helmet, rather. I should say.
Dan actually answered one of my questions from one of our earlier episodes about why they stopped using clones, and I think Finn says it a bit later on in the film, doesn't he? Kids are taken from their families, aren't they?
Yeah.
Possibly sold or taken into service, and they're just sort of used in the army. I'd forgotten how cool Kylo Ren's ship is as well. That kind of long V.
Yeah, it looks okay.
I noticed you put on our notes. Good intro by Finn and Poe. Kylo Ren a bit meh. Have you been tarnished by his?
I think because it's Star Wars and it's not just growing up with it, but after all these other films, you've got these main characters over the last 6 films.
Yeah.
So when they introduced Rey, who's just got no connection at all to the previous films.
Yeah.
But like within seconds, you kind of like her, and I think it's nothing super clever. But if you notice, her and Finn are completely unselfish all the time. So as soon as she sees BB-8 being netted up by that scavenger, she's wanting to help.
They're good people.
Yeah, she wanted to help. And then Finn just gets involved in just helping Rey, because when he first sees Rey, she's getting accosted, isn't she? And she just goes in and help. And then even when they're running away, they're not thinking for themselves. That little jokey bit where they're like holding hands and stuff. He's like, stop holding my hand. And it's just because he's just trying to help her, and they're just trying to help each other. So straight away, they're like, oh, these are the nice guys. Look, how good at heart they are. So I think that's. Yeah, I think it draws you to them straight away.
Now watching
really
this,
really pacey at the start as well, isn't it?
I put in my notes, running, lots of running.
Everything's on the move. I was really paying attention to this. The camera's very rarely still, apart from some close-up head-to-head shots.
Yep.
The camera's moving a lot. There's some shots even when they're reunited at the end. There's a bit when Finn and Poe, just before they go off to the battle, and the camera does like a full 360 all the way around them from one face to the other, and it's following them all the time. Characters are coming into a room, and then the camera's following them behind them and following them around. And there's a lot of stuff that James Cameron does it in Terminator a lot as well.
Okay.
Instead of having an action scene, and you're aware of this, you can see when films don't do it very well.
Yeah.
Everything just stops dead for the characters to do the exposition and explaining what they've got to do.
Is it like that handheld, slightly unsteady cam?
Yeah, and characters are talking. If you think of Terminator, Michael Biehn's character is just talking all the time, isn't he? He's telling you what's being chased, this is what's going on, and all that sort of stuff. So stuff's on the move all the time, and this does that. The characters are talking, explaining little bits of snippets of things, a little bit of banter, and they're just moving all the time. So
I love, and I think I remember this being in the promo trailers. I'm
going to put my glasses on to look clever.
Oh, okay. It was I've got mine and there's nothing it can do for me. The crashed Star Destroyer, the crashed AT-AT. It was that kind of...
Yeah.
Because, we do forget, don't we? What are we? Another 20 years in the future, should we say? No, more now? 40? So how old was Luke in Return of the Jedi?
What year did this come out?
25? Was this 2009?
What is it meant to be? The actual amount of time has passed is the actual amount of time that passed in real life, because the actors have aged accordingly.
Because
your video's gone off my end. I don't know if you can still see it.
I'm good. I'm good. My end. Okay. Hopefully it records.
It's okay.
I always thought, so let's say Luke is at worst, let's say he's 30 in Return of the Jedi. I don't think he is. I think he's meant to be like 25 or something.
Well, the Star Wars timelines that tell us this. So I'm trying to make it right next to this, trying to stick my phone in a place where I can actually still read my notes.
So
I don't know.
So 40. I mean, how old's Mark Hamill now? 60 something. So 40 years.
It's meant to, so it's a big. Though whether that's long enough to make them all think about Jedi, I thought they were just a legend. I didn't know those were real.
Yeah,
Why would they think that? That'd be like us talking about the Second World War and going, was that real? I thought it was just all legends. I didn't know that was a real thing.
I was thinking, and that for me actually, just side shooting a minute. Is it The Handmaid's Tale? That story takes place within a person's lifespan, doesn't it? I always thought you need a few generations for things to become myth or legend or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I watched this. Now, Rob, this easily passed the cup of tea test. I didn't stop at all, and I did actually. I paused it at one point to go and make a cup of tea, but I was in it. I was in it all the way through. I thought it was kinetic. I thought it was going. You see BB-8, instantly I turned to my wife and I said, I think BB-8 is my second favourite droid. And she was like, oh, is that not the C-3PO? And I was like, no, he's way down that list, I'm afraid. So and your wife turned to her, really? You've got a list of favourite droids? Tell me more. Oh, how are we still married
tonight?
How are we still married after all these years? I'm going to say R2 is my favourite, BB-8 is my second, and then I'm going to go, I think I'm going to go for K2SO after that, out of Rogue One. Anyway, I don't want to get into it. Yeah, so it goes on. Look, Rob, are we going to lovingly nitpick this? So, for example, the TIE fighters are coming down, they're running and racing, not that ship, it's a load of junk, and then they go, and then they blow up the ship they're going to get. But they must have a good minute to get in the Millennium Falcon and start it off and all that. The TIE fighters are not killing them.
And they can't hit that massive flat disc-shaped spaceship as well, which must be a nice easy target.
How I did have a thing saying, why hasn't Rey ever left? Because she wants to stay there, doesn't she? Because
she's waiting for someone to come back. Yeah.
How is she a good pilot? Is it because she's force sensitive?
I thought about this when I was watching it actually, because she picks up flying the Falcon very quickly, and then good enough even Han's interested in hiring her, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, she's.
So, has she piloted stuff on that planet?
Maybe. I mean, she's got a bike. She's got a sort of single-engine pod racer bike thing.
Well, you know, when she said about that sort of junkyard area.
Yeah.
Almost like a valet parking. Just because she said, "Oh, we don't want that one; it's a piece of junk." Well, how does she know that? Because does she actually fly ships and move them around? But she flies the Falcon very, very well.
Clever.
But maybe, I don't know. It looks a very confusing ship unless they all. I mean, you could just jump in another car and just drive off super well, could you?
Yeah, I mean, do you think there's probably an underlying similarity to spaceships, maybe?
It reminded me of a thought I had when I was watching For Your Eyes Only, when Roger Moore. That's a nice.
Fair enough. Yeah, go on.
I mean, I was thinking with James Bond, he could drive any car, and there's a bit when he jumps in a Citroen 2CV. And if you just jumped into a Citroen 2CV, you've never driven one before, you'd be grinding that gear stick like crazy. And I just think in Star Wars, everyone just jumps. Poe does it, doesn't he? Poe gets into the TIE fighter
I can fly anything.
And he's just like, and I'm just click, a few buttons, we're all a bit wobbly, and we're off.
But that was a great scene. I love I can fly anything. Because Poe is force sensitive as well, isn't he?
Isn't that in a comic or something like that?
I've read somewhere that he's force sensitive, which is why he's such a good pilot. Actually, he's being a good pilot linked with force sensitivity, because obviously Anakin is, Luke is. Who else is a good pilot?
Yeah,
what about?
I don't know. Chewie's quite a good pilot, so I think Chewie might be force sensitive.
Well, so that leads me to
Lando's
something.
girlfriend android thing, where they got turned into the machine, plugged into the Falcon.
Yeah.
So the Falcon itself is a good pilot, so the Falcon is force sensitive as well.
That leads me into something else. What are your thoughts on Captain Phasma? Is it Phasma? It is Phasma, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, if they hadn't hyped it and said I like a character and put it on the merch and stuff like this is the problem they had with Darth Maul, didn't they? Where it was hyped and then wasn't in it much in Phantom Menace. So they hyped up Captain Phasma. It was Gwendolyn Christie, which we did know who she was at that point from Game of Thrones when this came out. She was already famous for that. So, it's like a female stormtrooper. That's interesting. Oh, and she's all silver. Oh, that's interesting.
I always felt it was a bit pointless.
Yeah. I mean, if just it hadn't been hyped or promoted.
Yeah. Or is it that thing where they say, look, we've got plenty of money to spend. We're going to use names. People like Game of Thrones, maybe they'll come in and watch this because they like Gwendolyn Christie. I don't know. Or is it they wanted someone tall and they said, okay, we'll use that. But again, was that even her in the suit or was she just doing the voice?
Yeah, I don't know.
So yeah, so Poe's off, he does that, you've got the escape. Rob, I was squeeing like a girl at a K-pop concert when Finn did the thumbs up to BB-8. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. It's just great.
I think that, but I don't know. Is this Abram's input on it? The dialogue is quite. It's quite fast. It's quite sparky. It's got almost slightly ad-libby feel to it. It kind of reminded me a bit of the style of in Iron Man when Robert Downey Jr. and Gwyneth Paltrow together. Yeah. The dialogue feels quite natural. Like I imagine they've done lots of different takes.
I think so.
It feels natural. And there's bits in this where it feels like that. There's a bit when she's it's round about that scene, isn't it? When she's going, pass me that thing. No, that one. No, that one. I'm pointing at it now.
I love that scene. Scene.
Yes, there's little things like that which are they're a little bit jokey, and I don't remember the others being like. Were the other Star Wars films jokey like that? I don't remember the dialogue having that little bit.
I think there are.
Harrison Ford brought it, but certainly not in the prequels.
I wrote in my notes as well. Daisy Ridley always smiling. She had this joyousness. Did you feel like that? Like if you went to,
it's one of those movie star making roles.
Yeah, if you
not
go
really seen her in a lot else.
Disney World and you get to go on a Star Wars ride, you have that big grin on your face. It was like she was involved with something. And yes, I've got to fly. Oh my God, you're Han Solo. You know, all of that.
Yeah.
And then Finn calls him Solo, doesn't he? Which I thought was quite funny.
With all the forests for the first time, and she's obviously never been off that sandy planet, and she didn't even know the world could be that beautiful and stuff. This didn't pass the cup of tea test for me because there's one bit I did go and get a cup of tea, and I could see this scene coming. And scene my least favourite part of this film is where the Scottish guy and the guys from the raid turn up to Han Solo.
Can I pause and rewind just a minute?
Okay.
We haven't mentioned the TIE fighter chase through the downed Star Destroyer.
That's cool.
That is great. And
again, camera move. I think someone on YouTube correct it and say if the camera wasn't spinning around, this is all that the Falcon's doing. But it makes it look like it's twirling and looping.
I don't know, but I've got a thing which again is in my notes of X-Wing spinning over. Again, Millennium Falcon spinning over, and it's that. The gun is locked in position. Well, okay, I'm such a good pilot. I'm going to flip us over and point it right there.
I'd forgotten about that bit actually.
And there's a bit, isn't there, where Abrams has obviously got the I'm making the movements because if anyone does get to watch this on YouTube, if our recording works right for the first time, you see what I mean. But the camera's really low in the sand dunes, and it's kind of just going slightly above the horizon, and you can see the Falcon flying low. That was a fantastic bit of film work.
Yeah, the stuff in the foreground, and what's so good about that is I think special effects are jarring is when the cameras are doing things that the camera can't do, which is hard now because you've got things like things on drones and stuff. But I always used to hate it in things like in something like the Batman film, like the Val Kilmer Batman film. The camera's swooping through these buildings
as if they're just
and it's just showing off a computer-made city. And I think, well, if you had a real city, if that city existed, you wouldn't be doing that with a camera. It wouldn't be a good directing choice. So what are you doing now with them to show off? And it always pulls me out of the film. So with that, when it has those little things like bits of blur and the lens flares, I mean, Abrams, the Mickey take it him about it, doing lens flares. But that stuff that's slightly sort of out of focus in the foreground, it gives that sense of depth, and it makes you feel like they're really on a due and filming a spaceship, and it makes.
Did you think that? To me, it felt like there were a lot. Obviously, not in this scene, but I felt every time you saw someone stood next to a fighter or a prop, it looked like they were actually real made props. It looked like they'd really made and built them. And then in Falcon and this, there were lots and lots of things which looked real as opposed to CGI or green screen.
And comparing it to 4 weeks ago when we watched Revenge of the Sith.
Oh yeah.
Where you've just got characters walking down a corridor, and the whole corridor, the whole background is completely CGI because they're not bothered making the room.
Yeah.
Like when in the second Attack of the Clones, when Kenobi goes to the cloners and he's sitting in that room, and there's like a CGI chair comes down for him to sit on. They're just in a CGI room.
And you're like, what?
But in this, I think the sets, maybe it's just because the effects are better, but yeah, it feels tangible. It doesn't feel fake. It feels like they're on real things with real props. And the aliens, there's more. I know some of it's sort of tweaked and augmented with bits of CGI, but a lot of it's people in costume. You know who Simon Pegg plays in it?
No, but do you want to go back to your bit with the guys from the raid? Go on, tell me, who's Simon Pegg in this?
When she's got all the bits of junk and she gives it that guy, and he gives her some
1/2
money.
portion, yeah.
Yeah, that's Simon Pegg.
Well, or never.
But they've obviously done a little. So it was in costume, but they've obviously done a little bit of CGI work just on the face, just to make it a little bit more. So doing that, like a little CGI tweaking, I think that's the best way of doing it. Really, I think it works well. So the guys from the raid.
Who's the guy with the Scottish voice? I get the feeling I'm meant to know who he is.
No, I don't know.
You know,
I don't think I've ever seen him in anything.
No, I haven't either. Again, I was fangirling over the guys from the raid, and I was like, now I was expecting this to be that creature from Solo movie. You know, the one that's in that sort of cloud black hole thing, but I think it isn't. I think that was just me trying to
they're just
join things together.
I don't know. They're just slightly silly looking thing. I think that whole chase scene when they're shutting the doors and stuff, and then people are getting ripped apart and thrown around everywhere, and then Finn gets dragged along for a few seconds. It's like things like that. Just I found slightly annoying. It's very nitpicky, but everyone else is getting wiped out by the monsters, but Finn lasts long enough for her to go through all the doors. It's always
the case. It's Total Recall, isn't it, where everyone dies immediately being out on Mars, and Arnie's all right for a good minute and a half.
It just looks like a slightly. It just reminded me like one of these kind of weird things that you'd see in like an old 80s anime, like
the Langoliers or something.
Just like
although right,
like a massive. Well, isn't it? Doesn't it look like that thing that's in the new Doctor Strange trailer? To be honest, it looks like one of them.
Yeah, like a giant mouth, and it
big eye thing.
Although saying all of that, it is that main character gets lucky. It's like a thing where I do it all the time. I'm sure anyone else has. You take your headphones off or my earbuds, and I put them neatly away in a drawer or something. And then the next time I come to use them, and it's only me that uses them, they're knotted up or tied into something. And I say to myself, I couldn't have done that if I tried. You know, it's just so unrealistic things that happen. But again, it's main character syndrome. There were lots and lots of throwbacks, weren't there? It's like, I've accidentally lent on that 3D hologram chess thing.
Yeah.
That was like,
again, those bits. When you see that at the cinema, that's a good example of one of the things that for the nostalgia. It was
after 20 years or 30.
Yeah, you were like, do you get that? Do you get that? I get that. I'm a fan. But watching it weekly, it was just just seemed pointless.
It did, didn't it? I did like the fact that Finn is this he's the everyman, isn't he? Getting bowled along in all of this, and he's just trying to get away, isn't it? But of course, then for me, again, I'm jumping forward and back a bit here. It's the old Samwise Gamgee thing, isn't it? It's the vastly underpowered, out of his league thing. But he's going to try and have a go. I mean, this goes to the end as well.
The everyman. Look, I mean, that's that hero's journey thing that
exactly.
Lucas was a big fan of, wasn't he?
I'm a sucker for that.
Yeah, that's in so many stories, isn't it? Really.
So we're watching this. And then they get to the point. Now, sorry, I know we're jumping out. Kylo Ren gets to his sort of room and all that, and I think something happens in the first time, and he has a good old fit, doesn't he? And he's chopping tantrum. And my wife's like, God, he's got a bit of a cob on. And I said, well, he's better than Vader though, because Vader was getting through stuff like there was no tomorrow, didn't he, with his Force hand. And then he took his helmet off, and she was like, "Oh no, it's him." She's not an Adam Driver fan, and I was like, "No, come on, it's good." Have you heard the criticism that raised of Mary Sue? Have you heard about this?
I'm not quite sure. I've heard it. I don't understand it. I don't know.
I looked it up on Google the other day, and apparently again, this is only what Google told me. A Mary Sue is someone who is naturally good at everything. They're great at everything. They're altruistic. They're kind. They're beautiful. They're just too perfect. Do you know what I mean?
Why they call them Mary Sue though? Because aren't we male characters in films like that all the time? Isn't Indiana Jones the Mary Sue though?
Exactly. Exactly.
Is it just made up by people who don't like strong female characters? Is
Probably,
it that problem again?
Probably. Who knows? So, but I like because I did have that thing, and it was like Kylo Ren's trying to force read her mind, isn't he? And she's kind of resisting. And I thought to myself, wait a minute, he's had loads of training from Snoke, but she's actually managed. And then I thought, okay, but maybe she's a more powerful Force being.
Yeah, I get the impression that he's not that naturally powerful. He's not like the genuine heir to Darth Vader or Anakin. He's not like Anakin, where he's just really, really powerful. He's obviously got something there. He's easily lured over to the dark side. You find out with his backstory starts to fill out, I suppose. I think she's just stronger and more naturally gifted than he is, and so that bit works for me, because I just think, well, she doesn't understand what she's doing, but she plays it like that. She plays like she's a bit sort of surprised, and the bit when she makes Daniel Craig unlock her and escape. That's Daniel Craig.
Yes. Now then,
is that true or not?
Well, and have you heard the one about Princess William and Harry?
But they got cut out, didn't they? Apparently, their scenes aren't in the film now.
Well,
even though they dressed up.
Now, this is again, Rob, I should have done my homework and read. The bit where I think it's the bit where Rey escapes. Kylo Ren comes in, finds out, and he goes berserk, and then he's chopping up the room. And those two stormtroopers come around the corner, and the one's like, "Oh, wait a minute." I always thought it was them, but maybe I do need to just go back and look at that and see if that's the case.
Yeah. What do you think of Snoke at this point? Without not knowing what happens with him afterwards.
The problem is, I do know what happened. At the time, I was like, "Oh, great!"
Is he a giant? I thought.
Oh, so yes, I thought he did. And then he was like, "Oh no, it's not. It's a Force video call, whatever you call it." But I always thought this was going to be a great new leader. I mean, the problem is we're tarnished a little bit by knowing what comes, because for me, it always feels like The Force Awakens was a fantastic, and it is. It's a retelling of Episode 4, isn't it? Really.
I mean, if you talk about it in its isolation, away from the ones that come after it, it kind of holds your interest, because you've got who's Snoke? Well, that's interesting. He, how did they end up with Luke Skywalker? Luke Skywalker's lightsaber, in the box.
Yep.
And then you see that bit of flash when she does pick up. What's the big goggles character called?
Is it Maz Kanata?
So that Maz's character, which is like a bit intriguing. You're thinking, we'll find out more about them. We'll find about how she's got the lightsaber. And when Rey touches the lightsaber, she sees those flashes, and you see the Knights of Ren. So there was a lot of exciting sort of little teases there that you to look forward to. Which obviously a lot of that stuff, some of the answers aren't too satisfying in the end. But judging it in terms of setting things up and teases to keep you wanting to come back for more, it does a great job of doing that.
Now that scene there, with Maz, is it Kanata?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I always forget about this scene, and then you get the attack, don't you, by the TIE fighters and that. Really nice. I think they mentioned this in our Rogue One review. Nice to see things happening in the daytime, not in space, and on a planet with trees and water and kind of nice, natural. And again, it looked like a really big scene. It looked like a big outdoor area rather than a small set against some green skin. If it wasn't,
I mean, obviously, when you see the building from the outside, it's got CGI to it, doesn't it, with all the flags and everything. Because, but when they're running through the rubble and stuff, then Finn has a fight with that guy with the electric sword.
Nightstick thing. Yeah,
that all feels like it's all on location. And the bit actually, which is on location because we've been there. It's in the woods. Just on the borders to South Wales, actually.
Okay.
When she runs off, and then Kylo catches up with her, does that freeze thing on her, and takes hold of her and escapes with her. That forest bit, we've been there, and
never.
It crops up in films all the time, films and TV shows and stuff like that.
Really, it's just like a really location, good forest,
It was around about this time, I think, when this film had come out, and people had said they've just filmed. We went there, and at the time there was like, they filmed Merlin here, if you remember Merlin on BBC One. And then they said, they filmed some scenes for the new Star Wars film here, and just thinking, we'll look out for that. And then I remember going to see Force Awakens and spotting it, and thinking, that's it there.
I know it.
Really distinct, little, very mossy, little strange little forest area.
How cool's that?
Harry Tolkien used to hang out there.
Were you standing up in the cinema, whooping when Poe and all the TIE fighters coming over that lake?
You know what I think about starfighter scenes? I was not whooping.
Oh, come on.
They just leave me cold. They more X-wings.
That's fine, mate. They've got a different colour as well. I haven't mentioned the design at any point so far. The design of everything I thought was wonderful as well. Slightly further on in the Stormtrooper, in Ren stuff, in the ships.
They play it familiar, don't they?
Yeah.
I don't quite buy
those X-Wings coming in was great. It was coming in. Poe is an absolutely brilliant shot because he's shooting.
It's good when he's like, he's taking them all out so easily, which is quite cool. We've not mentioned at this point. Is it round about now when Hux does that teary speech?
Yeah, he's.
What do you think of him in it? I can't think what the actor's name is. The English guy. He's in loads of stuff. He's in Black Mirror, isn't he? And he's in.
Do you know what?
I think he's really hammy.
He's fine at the start, but then he does get the teary baby eyes. He's a bit snowflakey, isn't he? So
scenes with him, and he's like this annoying telltale, isn't he? He's like telling on Kylo all the time to Snoke.
Quite at the start, he says to Ren, doesn't he? We've been told to get this droid. Don't let your... And I thought, you won't be talking to Vader like that. Vader would have had you in a chokehold before you'd even known it.
Yeah, they obviously don't respect Kylo in the same way. I don't quite buy this whole... Because especially after watching it after Jedi last week.
Yeah.
That everything's hooray, and you've seen all the statues. I mean, we talked about this. We talked about it in the Jedi, didn't we? Like the Emperor's dead, and it feels like that same night people are pulling statues down already.
Immediately.
The Emperor's dead. Yeah. Even though there'll be tons of soldiers still there. So it's like they've overthrown the Empire, and then you see it in the Mandalorian show where there's obviously still little pockets of it, which is fine because I get the impression that was like that at the end of the war, wasn't it? There's like pockets on the retreat of German soldiers still causing trouble and stuff like that throughout France and things. So that makes sense. But then they've just got this massive First Order, and what I don't get is the structure here, because they refer to it like a republic, but then they've got like a resistance. But surely if they've got rid of the Empire and the Republic's in place now, why do they need this like small resistance to fight back against these bad guys? Surely the whole Republic would be fighting back against the First Order.
Yeah, I don't quite get that myself.
They're trying to make it into a little rebellion like it was in the other films, and
because
it doesn't work.
There's a massive army under the Knights of Ren, but how big is it? Like you say, if the original Empire had been torn down and there's now a massive galactic a coalition or alliance, they could take out Ren's evildoers like that, couldn't they? So,
they treat it like they're all on the run. They're treating it like it's the Empire again. That's like this thing that's taken over the whole galaxy to be overcome. They've made it into a big bad, and this feeding to a bigger criticism of this film as a whole, because you're enjoying it. You know, its parts add up to more than its whole, I suppose, in a way. Yeah. Because you judge the whole of it, and it's just it's some more stormtroopers. They've just brought the Empire back again. It's so lazy. Yeah. I mean, another masked guy, another orphan on a sandy planet. It's an old guy, which is in this case is Han, where Luke met Obi-Wan. So this, you got Han as the old guy telling him about the old ways. The First Order are basically just the Empire again, even in the Nazi SS style outfits and everything. They've not changed that much. They've got some new designers. X-wings again, and you got essentially another trench run. Yeah. At the end, blowing up the Death Star again.
Yeah, it was.
Some of the beats are just so samey, and
I mean, they are. I remember coming out the cinema, and I just sort of said, well, yeah, they've remade Episode 4. But it's been 20, 30, however many years it's been.
Yeah,
I'm okay.
It's really enjoyable.
It really is, though. Yeah,
it's well made, and it kickstarts a new trilogy. I mean, interesting when we talk on one of our other episodes when we'll talk about. I've been to see Fantastic Beasts.
So have I. Yeah.
But how well this kickstarted a new Star Wars trilogy.
Yeah.
Compared to what Fantastic Beasts has tried to do by kickstarting a new Harry Potter trilogy.
Yes.
Look how well this does it. This introduces new characters that you like straight away, and you want more of their adventures.
Oh, absolutely. I always felt
casting, chemistry, whatever it is they've got. That Abram's done a great job with this kickstarting.
Yeah. Finn and Rey, I thought, had a great chemistry together. Why they shoehorned Rose in later, or never had them as a couple.
It doesn't need any romantic thing there or anything. I don't feel like, I wasn't shipping the pair of them or anything like that. I just like the idea of the fact that they're just these two characters that have been brought into this big galactic conflict and completely out of the depth to start with, and how they rise to become the heroes. And it doesn't need to be. I don't know.
I felt a little bit of something in there. So, how did you feel? Spoilers for anyone who's not watched this. How did you feel about the confrontation between Kylo Ren and Han Solo?
Yeah, because it's still
got me in the feels, Rob. I was definitely reaching for the Kleenex there.
From a health and safety point of view, it bothers you that very thin platform with no rails
platform,
on it.
Really high up, no handrails.
No handrails, do they? Again, this is why it's just like the other ones. It does seem a bit odd. To be honest, that is a slightly distracting bit about that scene, actually, when he's standing in the middle of that rail. It's good, isn't it? Because the first time it happens, it's really shocking and upsetting. And then sort of re-watching it, you understand what he's saying. We said, there's something I've got to do. I'm not sure if I can do it. I've got this struggle. And now you know what he does. You realise that struggle is because he's got to kill him, but obviously Han is thinking, oh no, there's a chance for me to save you here. I'll help you.
Which is a shame, really, because I thought Harrison Ford was at his best. I've seen him for quite a long time in this. I thought he was really.
I think he's okay.
Full of life and interest. Yeah.
I think he's just so natural at doing it by this stage. By that stage, I should say. Anyway, don't know what he's going to be like. And how old's this film now? 10 years?
Yeah, if not longer. Yeah.
I don't know what he's going to look like in the next Indiana Jones film, but at this point, he still looks okay. Getting in a little bit of shooting and action and running around a little bit.
Yeah.
It's and the scenes with him and Carrie Fisher are nice as well. And I've got
Chewie's cry when Han gets stabbed. It was just like really, really good.
Do you feel bad though that when they go back to where the rebellion people are?
Yeah.
Right, and Princess Leia goes to Rey and gives Rey a great big hug.
Yeah.
Not Chewie.
He hasn't even got a medal, so.
And at that point, she's never even met Rey, has she? She's never met her before. This woman comes off the Falcon and she goes up and gives her a big hug.
But they're both force sensitive. That's a get out for everything. They can feel the force in each other, can't they? They're both force sensitive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look. Yeah. It's. it's okay. It's fine, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's fine.
I mean, yeah. So that bit where they're planting all the bombs, and that's quite a good little action sequence. Again, it's moving along at a good pace. Yep. I really like how I forgot how good actually the bit in the lightsaber duel is in the snow.
Just before we get
I remember
to that,
being a really short.
Yeah. Just before we get to that, I like the bit where I forget exactly how it goes now, but the sun is going out, isn't it? And there's like this grey, because it's sucking the sun, isn't it, to power this new Death Star thing, Star Killer base. It gives that grey tint to everything, which I thought was a really nice touch. But yeah. So the battle in the forest. Yeah, Finn again. He's having a go, isn't he? He's trying to
Force sensitive.
And again, it's that thing of him and Rey together. Not really as good as Kylo Ren, but he's a bit all over the place, isn't he? He's just too much anger, isn't there?
Yes, he hasn't got the control. He hasn't got the experience, and also you think, with particularly with the canon comics of Vader after he's become Vader. I mean, it's not Anakin's got all the experience of the Clone Wars in him.
Yeah.
And then he's going around slaying everybody he meets. It seems in the comics. So Vader's had a lot of battle experience. With Kylo, I guess not so much. Maybe, I don't know. So he's strong, but he's just clumsy, isn't he? And
he's all over the place, isn't he? But yeah, I like the fact that Finn has a crack at him, doesn't he? Finn gets wiped out fairly easy, but he has a good go. And he gives, I'm assuming Finn ends up in a back to tank later. And then Rey, we mentioned earlier, she obviously must have some stronger force powers, as well as, but we saw her with a staff earlier on, so she knows how to fight.
He seems a bit sort of annoyed and surprised, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Where she's too good and she's better than he was expecting. He thought this was going to be fairly an easy fight. The bit when he tries to retrieve the lightsaber,
right,
and it goes whizzing past him to
that's
her.
Great.
That's a good bit.
That's a really great bit. On that note, he's standing there going, hand out. You could have just walked over and got it quicker than it would have been. Good to get that. No, she's fabulous.
They must do it all the time. They drop a pen and they're just like,
force.
With the fun, you could just pick it up.
You mentioned earlier about Finn getting attacked by that tentacle monster and he's luckily getting away. There was some wonderful earthquaking going on here, wasn't there, to separate them just perfectly. And I was like, yeah. Okay.
But it's good as a way of tying up that end of that battle, where it's to be continued, because it works well then, doesn't it? Because no one's really won or lost. It's just
he's got Ren's got a nice scar now, hasn't he?
Which goes to a different place in the next one.
Oh, does it? Oh, I didn't remember that.
And they've pretty much said it. They've just said that from a design point of view, they wanted the scar somewhere else, so they just moved it, apparently.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And then we've got the sort of trip to find Luke and his robot hand at the end, haven't we?
And the totes awkward standing there for ages.
It's here's your lightsaber now, which of course leads you on to the next film, which we're not going to talk about yet, but that start to the next film. I always remember thinking, oh God, really? And we sort of end, and I gotta say, I absolutely loved it. I really enjoyed it. There wasn't any limb cutting off this time, was there? I don't think.
Oh, or for a little animal in the corner of a shot sticking its tongue out.
Yeah, and burping.
To be honest, in talking that through, I mean, Empire was a big love-in for us, wasn't it? Really, because I adored it. But out of the year, so what, we're on episode 7 now.
Yeah.
After Empire, this has got probably the least amount of gripes. I mean, the main gripe for me is the fact that structurally it is so samey to New Hope, and that seems really jarring watching them close to each other within a few weeks. But in terms of enjoyment,
I think it's fab. I think it's
I was sucked into the story, and it rattled along at a great pace. I think it's really fun. It's not too dark. It's not silly, so it's not pandering down. It doesn't get any of that kind of annoying C-3PO in the droid factory silliness or Jar Jar Binks silliness. And the cast are all really, really likeable.
Joyous, I thought. Yeah, Rey's a really joyous character who And you do, you sort of, between her and Finn, you view it through their new eyes, don't you?
Yeah.
And
So
really
it's
good. Really, really good.
yeah. Yeah. So how many lens flares out of 10 did you give it?
Rob, I gave it 8. I gave it 8 BB-8 thumbs up, little lighters.
Yeah, snap. I gave it
really
8
good
as well. I think it's just that plotting thing which brought it down a little bit for me, and I don't like that bit with the tentacle monster rolling around.
That's
in the
okay
spaceship.
for me.
But otherwise, it's a strong 8. It's
Problem is now is that, you know, is this the last good Star Wars film? Because the next two are fraught with some
Last
issues
Jedi
here and there.
split the fan base, didn't it?
Yeah.
Split the fan base, Last Jedi did, because there are a lot of people that love it for trying to do something new. I don't know whether watching it straight back to back after Force Awakens is going to change my opinion on that. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll have a go. We'll have a go. Right, folks, thank you for joining us. If by any chance you're watching us on YouTube and we've managed to record our show this week, please give us a like. So smash that subscribe button. Notify us.
Is it? Where is it? Is it here somewhere?
It's down
there
below somewhere, or one of these little cards on here. We'll get better at this, honestly. Thank you for joining us this week.
Or we'll never do it again.
Or we'll never do it again. Or if you're listening, thank you again for joining us in whatever you're doing. We'd love to hear what your thoughts of The Force Awakens are. Rob, we are going to have a friend of the show on soon. Our friend of the show, Casey, who's a hardcore Star Wars fan. So she's going to join. We're just trying to organise timing. She's our first American guest. So that'd be pretty cool. Guys, you know where we are. You can email us. It's wehavebeenwatchingpodcast@gmail.com. Over on Twitter, it's @WHBWpodcast. And if you like cool black and white pictures, go and see Rob's Instagram, our Instagram, which Rob looks after, and it's We've Been Watching Podcast. Until next time, I'm still going to say it, may the Force be with you, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
See ya.